Good morning. Thank you for joining us here for today's webcast. My name is Jeff Gadway, and I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at BlackBerry. With me today is Michael Brown, Vice President of Security Product Management and Research. We're here to talk about managing security threats in today's mobile enterprise. Today's discussion will highlight some of the complexities and security risks that organizations face today, along with the implications of those challenges. We'll talk about how BlackBerry is helping organizations to face those challenges head-on with best-in-class security. And we'll briefly introduce you to the new BlackBerry Enterprise portfolio of software and services built atop that secure foundation. Let's get started. Mobility has introduced untold potential for organizations of all kinds and all sizes. Hyperconnectedness is changing the way people and machines work together. Cloud computing is changing the way apps are developed and managed. And a mobile-first point of view is changing the way new companies are set up and how existing companies evolve. But with this untold potential come new complexities and new challenges. There's been a huge increase in the number of MDM, MAM, MCM, and mobile enterprise app platform vendors. New technology has resulted in more legacy systems that are costly to upgrade. Exponential new endpoints require IT to control access to information on more devices. End users demand consumer-grade solutions from smartphones to tablets and now wearables. With end users bringing new consumer solutions into the enterprise, user-created mobile security issues are now rising. Amidst all this, companies need to find new ways to remain compliant and meet regulations. A magnitude and multitude of mobile operating systems with different threat patterns are hard to manage. And all the while, the expectation that mobile workforces have to be always connected requires high reliability. But amidst all those complexities, there's none more prevalent than security. We can't seem to go a month without hearing about another security breach. And with the high-profile security breaches that are now in the spotlight, it's becoming a chief concern at all levels of the organization. The average security breach cost per firm has now exceeded $6 million. In 2012, there were 4.5 million lost or stolen smartphones in the U.S. alone. In 2013, the number one source for FINRA fines was failure to meet electronic compliance obligations. But the impact of these security breaches extends far beyond financial implications. A security breach erodes the trust that customers have in a brand as they lose faith that their data is safe and being handled respectfully. Revenue is lost through the loss of trade secrets or misappropriated customer data. Security isn't just IT's responsibility anymore. CEOs are being held personally accountable for security breaches. That's why it's no surprise that boards of directors are asking about what security measures are in place to guard against new vulnerabilities like hacking, spying, data leakage from lost or stolen devices, non-compliance fines, and more. It's become clear that security is now everybody's responsibility. To better understand the kinds of things that are keeping our customers awake at night, to really dig into how much of a concern risk management and mitigation is when selecting, deploying, and managing mobile solutions, we developed a global study that included everyone from IT managers to the C-suite. The most glaring fact that we found was the realization of a gap in understanding how poorly managed mobile devices can really increase corporate risk, and yet that organizations are not taking types of actions to mitigate this known risk. So we know that there's a need to do something, but we're not doing it. Here's some of the other notable highlights from the study. Just over 1 in 3, or 35% of organizations, are confident that their organization's data assets are fully protected from unauthorized access via mobile devices. Nearly 2 in 3, or 59%, report the number of data breaches their organization has experienced via mobile devices have increased in the last year. From these types of numbers, it's clear that these threats aren't going away, but rather that they're on the rise, and that we can expect to see more security-related headlines in the months and years ahead. More than 2/3 believe that mobile devices are the weakest link in their enterprise security framework. Mobile devices are now the preferred access point for hackers. Looking ahead just 1 year, there will be over 750 million business-use smartphones worldwide. With the world moving to an X times future, with 10 times the amount of connected devices, 100 times the amount of apps across both BYOX and corporate deployed, and 1,000 times the amount of data, that adds up to a lot of possible points of vulnerability. As if managing mobile security wasn't enough on its own, add in the additional complexities that come from needing to balance the needs of the business with those of end users when it comes to mobility. IT is challenged by wanting to push organizations forward and thinking ahead about strategic advantages offered by new technology, but they're nagged by the threats and complexities in the system. All the while, end users demand consumer-grade experiences, device choice, and increasingly complex systems. Security can't impede productivity, because if it does, they'll work around it with a BYOX solution. It's for these reasons that mobility is both the blessing and the bane of business today. With it comes untold potential and untold risk. To learn more about the results of the study, download the full risk tolerance report at blackberry.com/risk tolerance. Now, it used to be that security from an enterprise perspective meant restricting end users. But today, security is about enabling people to do more, no matter where they are, by giving organizations and their employees trust that they can access corporate data anywhere without compromising it. Enabling a greater number of workers with even more sophisticated mobile technologies adds complexity to mobile decision-making. Here at BlackBerry, everything that we do is built on a foundation of security. In fact, security isn't just at our foundation, it's found in each and every level of our solution. I'd like to invite Michael Brown to share a little bit more about security here at BlackBerry.
Thank you, Jeff. I think it's far too easy for customers sometimes to think about security as being just about a feature or a requirement that's within a product itself. The reality and how BlackBerry approaches building products, really the philosophy in terms of how we think about solving problems for our customers, is to recognize that most of the work actually around security is in how you build products. It's not in what you're building in the products itself. You can think about it very much in terms of the way you build an enterprise and government-grade solution is to think about building security into the life cycle of everything you do and how you build your products then. It all starts with requirements. When you imagine a product as being just a twinkle in someone's eye or just a diagram sitting in an envelope somewhere, really that's where you're starting to think about security. What type of data are you going to access? What type of controls need to be around it? Where is that data going to come from? And what do you need to think about then? The next step when you're building a product is to then take that, inkling of an idea and then put it on a whiteboard. Start to actually draw out what the solution is going to look like. And then that's the point when you start building your early things like a threat model. You say, what's the data coming in? And what type of security do I need to have on those connections? Is it inside my network? Is it staying within the corporate confines that IT has control of? Or is it going to go outside to talk to another service? This is where we start to really put the framework of security around a solution that you as a customer get to use. The next step, putting fingers to keys, starting to actually implement the product then and take those visions from the whiteboard and start putting them into reality then as well too. And at that point, security changes. Now it's thinking about what type of libraries am I using? Am I using safe or unsafe functions when I'm interacting with memory? What type of tools am I using to actually build the product? And am I integrating things like automated analysis into a build and release process so that security issues can be caught before they actually make it into a build in the first place then? But once a product's been built, we're not done yet. Typically, when you think about testing of a product before it goes to market, it's very much about positive focus. Is the product doing what I think it's doing? Is it solving the features that my customers are looking for? Security testing is very much a negative approach. It's what happens if it breaks? What happens if something fails? Are we going to fail securely? Are we going to fail safely? And so testing and validation from a security point of view are just as important as how we implement and design and set requirements for products that we have. But then we're not done when a product goes out the door. In many ways, this is when things begin. Sustaining a product in the market is a true mark of how you look after an enterprise product for customers. Recognize that software is complicated, hardware is complicated, there's going to be bugs. Customers expect that, but what customers require is clear communications from their partners and what type of risk they might have. If a vulnerability is discovered in a BlackBerry product, then they're looking for communications and mitigation strategies in terms of how they protect themselves. And then how do they get patches to fix those problems so they don't need to worry about it anymore? And next, good security looks very much like bad security. So the challenge that customers face is how do I know that the solution that I'm using is really meeting the security needs that I have, is really doing what the vendors say. That's why BlackBerry's had a long relationship focusing on security certification as a way to allow our customers to trust but verify that the solution that they have in front of them is meeting the security needs that they demand for their industries. So then what's interesting is you take that approach around how do you build products, and then you start to imagine what the products are that you're going to provide to your customers then. But if we take a step back and remember where the industry came from, far too often there's a focus on, I have a security issue and I'll deal with it with an IT control to turn something off. This is very much about, issuing the no stick to your users. That doesn't work today. Now, I think a good example, also because the movie is coming out again, is thinking of Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park taught us two very important lessons. First of all, never clone dinosaurs. Secondly, life finds a way. An end user's goal in your organization is to get the job done. They want to solve the problem that their businesses are facing. And if IT is putting up a roadblock to them solving their problem in the way that they believe is the right way to do it, they're going to try to work around it. That's where cloud file storage started from. It wasn't about how do I exfiltrate data from an organization. It was how do I share a large presentation with a coworker? How do I get my job done in the right way? From a BlackBerry point of view, is we take those lessons into our products to build that strong foundation so that our customers know that they can rely on the product to get the job done. Coming back to something Jeff said earlier, it enables business. It doesn't get in the way of the business. Now, when we look at BlackBerry specifically, this informs many of the product choices that we make along the way. When we manufacture a BlackBerry device, we actually put a security key into the silicon of the device itself. This does two things. First of all, it ensures that when an operating system is loaded onto the device, it can be validated to make sure that no one has modified it. This ensures that you have a strong foundation as an IT department to know that you can control it properly. And secondly, when that BlackBerry device then connects into our infrastructure, we can also validate that that is an authentic device as well. So you know that the devices connecting into your organization are the ones that should be connecting to your organization. Secondly, BlackBerry builds the operating system that runs on BlackBerry devices. And that means that we can ground controls at the very lowest levels of the operating system to ensure that when a command comes from a BES to the device, that operating system can actually validate to ensure that a command hasn't been modified with, hasn't been tampered with, and is from the management console that should be sending the command to it then. Building these controls into the operating system of the device gives you as an organization a stronger assurance that, again, commands that you are sending to that device, that logging that you need to take place because of the rules that you live in your organization, that all of those things are happening. And BlackBerry is building the applications which are running on your BlackBerry devices, on your iOS devices, Android devices, and Windows Phone devices as well. All of those actually ensure that those controls there can be done as an efficient and cross-platform way as possible. So at your management console, when you're sending a command to set a password, when you're sending a command to ensure that the right type of PIN solution is being used on that device, then you know that all of those are coming from BlackBerry. Next, all of those devices which are coming in your organization, they need an efficient and secure way to connect to you. And that's what the BlackBerry infrastructure is for. We already talked about how when a BlackBerry device connects to the infrastructure, it does so, the infrastructure can ensure that it's an authentic device coming to it as well. But don't forget the BlackBerry infrastructure is solving that problem of how do you efficiently connect any mobile device anywhere in the world back into your organization in an efficient and cost-effective way. This is still a hard problem today. And finally, the management console. This is very much what the IT department sees. This is the tangible element that they hold in their hands. And what's important for them is solving complexity. The complexity of mobility is the fact that it can be anywhere in the world and in so many different forms because of things like the consumerization of IT. And the BlackBerry management console is there to ensure that you have the right controls to control the devices that your organization is using, no matter what activation model you have, whether it's a bring your own device environment, whether there's a COPE environment or COBO environment. You have the controls and the activation methods for you to meet the needs of your industry. So something that Jeff brought up before when we were talking about how is security an enabler for our customers, that leads us to the challenge of when security is an enabler, how do I trust but verify what I'm using in my organization then? This is why BlackBerry has been such a long proponent of the use of security certifications and approvals to to provide that comfort to our customers so they know that the security that they're using is what they expect to be there. That's why BlackBerry has over 77 security approvals and certifications, more than anyone else in the industry from around the world, to provide that level of understanding for our customers then. This ranges from certifications such as the FIPS 140 program, which is focused on did you implement the cryptography correctly, which is the foundation of how you protect information flows and information stored on your devices. Through the use of industry standards like AES 56 to protect the data that you have, or even focusing on things such as the full operational capability for the U.S. Department of Defense. This isn't just about did you do security on the device properly, did you follow the standards and implement the right information within your management console. It's really about that entire system and how it works together and how it interacts with the IT organization that an organization such as Department of Defense would have behind it there as well. Again, this is something which BlackBerry is able to offer uniquely in the industry because of the experience we have. And I think what's most fascinating about this here is if you look at the lessons that BlackBerry learned in building mobile devices over the past 16 years, bringing BlackBerry to market and solving these strong security problems for our customers, a lot of this leads into when you think about the future of IoT, because the problems that IoT faces are very much the problems that mobile faces in its infancy, and BlackBerry has that foundation in thinking about how to solve that.
Thanks, Michael. It's that industry-leading security that's one of the key reasons why the world's leading businesses choose BlackBerry. BlackBerry customers include all 7 of the G7 governments and 16 out of the 20 G20 governments. 10 out of the 10 largest global enterprises in pharmaceutical, legal, and automotive industries, as well as the 5 largest oil and gas companies, are all BlackBerry customers. Partners like Boeing and Samsung are excited to work with BlackBerry for its industry-leading security as well. Boeing is collaborating with BlackBerry to provide a secure mobile solution for Android devices using our BES 12 platform. And Samsung and BlackBerry are currently working together to bring a tightly integrated end-to-end secure solution that brings together BES 12 with Samsung Galaxy smartphones and tablets enabled with Samsung Knox. Built on top of this best-in-class security is a brand new portfolio of BlackBerry enterprise solutions that extend beyond MDM to include EMM, communications, collaboration, and identity and access management. As these are likely new to many of you, I'll spend just a couple of minutes talking to each. BlackBerry EMM solutions securely connect employees to the data, apps, machines, and people they need to connect with to create a highly productive end-user experience while offering the lowest total cost of ownership across multi-OS EMM solutions. At the center of this EMM solution is BES 12, a new multi-OS EMM solution that serves as the command and control center for the secure enterprise. Built on BlackBerry's trusted global data network, BES 12 makes managing enterprise mobility efficient across iOS, Android, Windows Phone, and BlackBerry devices. Now, if your last experience with BlackBerry was with BES 5 or BES 10, there's plenty new to explore in BES 12. From a new modern architecture, a single place to manage iOS, Android, and Windows Phone devices, in addition to BlackBerry smartphones, and a new easy-to-use console, plus a ton more. Beyond BES 12, the BlackBerry EMM offering includes new solutions like BlackBerry Blend that make it possible for employees to securely access work data that lives on their BlackBerry smartphone using any Android tablet, iPad, Windows PC, or Mac computer. Another new solution is called WorkLife by BlackBerry that allows enterprises to manage and pay for a work number while giving employees control over their personal phone number all on the same device. In communications and collaboration, BlackBerry builds on the speed, privacy, and security of BBM with 2 new solutions, BBM Protected and BBM Meetings. BBM Protected adds additional encryption to messages sent between BBM users within and between companies, and it works on iPhone, Android, and BlackBerry smartphones. It's as easy to deploy as an IT policy with no new hardware or no new software requirements. And best of all, end users are going to love it because it's a fully featured consumer IM app. All the security happens in the background, so there are no compromises to the end user experience. BBM Meetings is a brand new conferencing solution that delivers better mobile collaboration at better value. While most collaboration applications are built from the desktop first and retrofitted for mobile, BBM Meetings has been designed from a mobile-first perspective. BBM Meetings makes it easy to schedule, join, and host meetings from your iPhone, Android, or BlackBerry 10 smartphone, as well as your Windows PC or Mac. You can even present slides and manage meeting participants on the fly from your mobile device. And all this comes at just a fraction of the cost of other conferencing solutions like WebEx and GoToMeeting. BlackBerry Identity and Access Solutions simplify access and entitlement to devices and data, as well as internal and third-party applications delivered through the cloud, using the power of the secure and trusted BlackBerry network. Enterprise Identity by BlackBerry serves as a single point to entitle, control, and audit all cloud apps, all while making them easy for enterprise employees with one set of credentials for all their enterprise applications. VPN Authentication by BlackBerry uses trusted BlackBerry security built atop the proven global infrastructure to allow employees to use their iPhone, Android, or BlackBerry 10 smartphones for two-factor authentication without the need for additional passwords or PINs. And for the organization, VPN Authentication by BlackBerry helps to reduce overall costs by reducing hardware and support costs. The BlackBerry portfolio really has changed a lot over the last year, but one of the things that remains unchanged is a commitment to simply and securely enhance the productivity of corporations, countries, and people who shape the world. Thanks for joining us today. We hope that from this webinar you see that BlackBerry is committed to being your partner in secure enterprise mobility and is working hard to tackle today's security threats head-on. We invite you to visit blackberry.com/mobilityready to explore the new BlackBerry Enterprise portfolio in more detail. You can also visit blackberry.com/risk-tolerance to download the full risk tolerance report referenced throughout this webcast. Now we're going to spend a few minutes answering your questions. You're free to submit questions through the chat bubble that's on your screen. All right, and the first question here comes from Nicholas. Nicholas asks whether BES 12 will be available as a cloud service, and does BlackBerry have plans to make its security features available on desktop and laptops? So I'll take the first part of that question and talk about the deployment options that BES 12 has for our enterprise customers. Choice is something that's really important to us here at BlackBerry, and that extends into how we allow enterprises to manage different deployment models and how we allow them to manage BES 12 as a service. So right now, BES 12 is available as an on-premise service, but we absolutely have plans to make it available both in the public and private clouds as well as hybrid deployment. So stay tuned for more information about cloud deployment of BES 12, multi-tenant cloud deployment of BES 12 coming very, very soon. And I'll let Mike speak to the second component here as well.
Yeah, if you look at really how we've expanded BES 12, kind of from where its roots are, and starting with mobile devices and expanding across different types of networks, whether it be cellular networks, whether it be Wi-Fi networks, and then also expanding across into the different types of devices that are out there as well. Absolutely, our goal has been is how can we take the security features that really started between a BlackBerry device and a BES, and then extend them out further and further. That's why you see BES 12 when it launching with not just BlackBerry 10 and DDoS support, but also into, of course, iOS devices, Android devices, and even Windows Phone as well too. So, if we think about what BES 12 is focused on, it's how do you control the devices which enable your enterprise, and that is something that's extremely important for us.
One final thing I'll just mention on this question, talking about extending BlackBerry's security to desktops and laptops, that's really where that new feature BlackBerry Blend comes in. The way that Blend works is that an organization defines some management criteria around how data is shared and accessed, from laptops and desktops. They define those policies for the smartphone. So they manage only one device, which is the smartphone, and it's through that device that these other devices like laptops and tablets interact with that work data. So by managing just one device, it's really actually managing data and how data flows. By managing the data, by extension, you manage the devices.
So let's look at some of the other questions we have here. So one, there's a question about to what extent does the device operating system affect security? And the answer is it's a key component of that system. Security loves metaphors, and so a common one to use here is a chain. And so every link in the chain is just as important as every other link in terms of enabling a secure platform for it to use. So that's when we were talking about looking at where is security grounded in terms of management controls. And if you know that the operating system is actually going to be the piece of which is going to enforce, say, a wipe command coming from your BES, and that gives you a greater assurance as a customer then as well. And This very much flows into the next question, which is looking at around the challenge with root or jailbroken Android or iOS devices and how does security fit there. And really the approach in those types of cases is how do you, one, try to detect a jailbreak or a rooting taking place on the device, and then as well too is how do you containerize or encrypt data which is then stored on top of that operating system. From an assurance perspective, of course, you can't go as far as you could if you were, say, building upon the actual hardware and then the lower-level operating system of the devices. Trying to detect a jailbreak or a rooting is in many sense an arms race, which goes on in the industry there. So, this is where you really look at, the different offerings from BlackBerry as being able to, solve a spectrum of challenges within organizations. And not all solutions will work for all classes of users out there. And that's why it's so important for you to understand what type of information are you processing as an organization, both at a macro level and then at a user and group level there to determine what are the right solutions for you to use. The next one is looking at how does BlackBerry security differ from offerings like PGP encryption. They're actually complementary to each other. If you think about what BlackBerry security is focused on, it's about enabling that mobile enterprise, both from a control perspective, from a management perspective, and then from a communications and collaboration perspective with security as an underpinning. PGP actually fits very well within that framework there as well too as a way to how can then I add an additional level of security on email, for example, that extends beyond my organization. So when messages are flowing out from my organization out to another organization there, how do I ensure that channel, when it's traversing over the internet, is being protected? And that's why we've had a long-standing relationship of working closely with Symantec to ensure that PGP works appropriately on our devices then. Now, our next question here is just looking at really around the security of BBM protected and how does that fit within a BES environment. And there's two things really to highlight here. One is the fact that, yes, when you're setting up that peer-to-peer connection between two BBM protected users, there are additional tunnels of encryption which are going on top of that traditional security between a BBM, two BBM users. And this is based off of AES 56 as being the cryptography which is used. But it's also important to note that it does fit very well within the existing BES monitoring logging capabilities, which a number of our regulated customers require because of the types of environments they work in and the type of legislation and regulations that they have to live with on their side then.
I think this is a good opportunity to jump down to a question that I see here in the list that asks around, why would a company want to introduce another, secure chat application like BBM protected if Microsoft Link is in the enterprise already? It's a great question and one that we get all the time. Truthfully, when we look at or we talk to a lot of customers who are using things like Microsoft Link, they tell us that it's widely adopted for enterprise end users when they're sitting at their desks, but that for the most part, it doesn't really get used all that much on the mobile device. And that's for a number of reasons. Number one, it only allows you to talk to other enterprise users or colleagues. And from an end user perspective, that's a subpar user experience. Now you have to have multiple chat applications for different constituencies that you interact with. One for your family and friends, one for your work colleagues. And furthermore, Microsoft Link is built as primarily a desktop application with a mobile extension. So it doesn't offer, a true mobile experience like something like BBM Protected does. So that kind of goes back to that point that Mike made around, delivering a seamless experience, one that end users are going to want to embrace and adopt, and not putting up something that kind of stands in the way of productivity or collaboration. And what we've heard from customers who have adopted BBM Protected is that because the security is seamless and really happens in the background, and their end users can use a single chat application for both talking to their family and friends as well as securely talking to their colleagues and partners and customers, it gets used that much more than some of the other solutions that are out there.
So another question that I'll pick up on here quickly is there's a comment about can you help those of us understand kind of where Samsung fits in this end-to-end solution with BES 12. So if you remember, Jeff spoke to before about the work we've been doing with Samsung in terms of how do we manage in a secure fashion Samsung Knox devices as well. And there's really two parts to it here. One is, from a customer perspective, they're already used to using BES for managing the complexity of mobile across a wide variety of mobile devices, not just BBOS and BlackBerry 10 devices, but also Android devices in the various flavors and also in the iOS and now Windows Phone side. Samsung, through its Knox product, offers an additional level of controls, commonly referred to as being safe APIs, and then also a container solution within their environment there for, again, providing that type of container approach within the Android environment there. So the focus on BES, and specifically BES 12, is, one, leverage that console that you're already used to for managing mobile devices to take advantage of those Samsung specific Knox controls which are there. And two, have it in that integrated fashion so that, for you as an enterprise there that has a mix of devices in your environment there, that you can, as a cleanest from a TCO perspective, manage all of those devices there. But then when you know that you have specific devices which have specific additional controls, like a BlackBerry device or like a Samsung Knox device, that you can drill in to get those very specific types of controls that exist there as well. Just another quick one I want to jump on here. As I saw, there's a question about does BES 12, will it manage BB5 in 10 devices? Absolutely. The goal of BES 12 is to provide that single server and console to manage devices that you traditionally manage with your BES 5 deployment, devices you manage with your BES 10 deployment as well. So it is very much that consolidated server for managing all of those mobile devices that you have deployed in your environment.
Yeah, and I'll just build on Michael's comments there, just highlighting a few of the other key new features of BES 12. Beyond just providing that simple high-level console for managing all of your devices, we've introduced a brand new control dashboard that's highly visual. It's really easy to use, very modern. We've introduced a new modern architecture that allows you to have more devices per server and more servers per domain. We're introducing more choice and more flexibility in terms of what kind of deployment models you want to support, ranging from BYOD, so bring your own device, all the way up to corporate-owned, personally enabled, or even COBO, corporate-owned, business only. We support that whole range of devices across a number of different operating systems. So, BES 12, you can manage BlackBerry devices, obviously, BES 5, BB10 and BBOS, but also multi-OS, so Android devices, iOS devices, Windows devices. And, if you've been following the news recently, we announced a partnership with Samsung back in November where we'll be able to use BES 12 to manage Knox-enabled devices too. So, BES 12 really is your command and control center for the secure enterprise, allowing you to do all of those things from one place. And, with the BlackBerry pedigree for security that we've been talking about here today. So that's just a little bit more on BES 12. I'm going to jump from BES 12 to talking about work life. There have been a couple questions here about the new offering Work Life by BlackBerry that we introduced in November as well. The great thing about Work Life, just to expand on its value, we've seen some legislation passed in certain countries and states like California that stipulate that organizations must pay for an employee's personal use of a device. That the organization must pay for the work use of a personal device, rather. I got that mixed up. And this is where a product like Work Life really comes in valuable because it allows an organization to add a corporate line to a personal device that they can then manage on their own. So it alleviates the need for complex, proxy servers and bill splitting and a whole bunch of things like that where stipends that organizations provide are either overpaying or underpaying employees. It does it really seamlessly. It's done through a virtualized SIM solution. So you can easily add another number to an existing employee line really easily. It's something that we're working with carrier partners around the world to introduce very quickly. And if you'd like to sign up for more information, you can visit our website, blackberry.com, and sign up for more information. And we'll be alerting people as carriers come online in different markets around the world in the months ahead.
So one question I thought would be good to jump on here is I saw some comments talking about unmanaged devices. So the comment there is, if I have a BlackBerry device which is not being managed by BES, what type of security do I have available to me in that case there? The key thing there is that, when we think about where BlackBerry came from, its pedigree is really about, how do I ensure that the differentiate between enterprise devices or consumer devices. All of our devices are enabled for an enterprise So a lot of those features that an enterprise would take advantage of, you can actually leverage as an individual who isn't using a BES. So for example, the ability to encrypt all the data stored on your device, the ability to leverage different types of passwords for protecting information on your device there. Within BlackBerry world, for example, we have a product called BlackBerry Guardian, which actually scans applications before you download them to provide you that curated environment to protect you from malware as well too. And even if you do lose your device, because to Jeff's point earlier, that happens pretty frequently in the mobile world, products like BlackBerry Protect, which are part of the BlackBerry experience out of the box there, allow you to remotely locate, remotely turn on the ringer. I have small children. My device ends up everywhere in the house, and being able to turn on the ringer is a great way to track it down in the morning when I'm trying to go to work. And remotely set passwords and then wipe your device if you think you've lost it there. Provide you those consumer-oriented solutions which allow you to control and protect your device. Now, of course, when you're within an organization, we always recommend the use of something like a BES because then it allows you to start to think about things like user groups. It allows you to think about how do I deploy IT policies across different parts of my organization, and then especially for regulated customers, being able to take advantage of things like the type of controls and monitoring which they are required to meet according to their legislative and regulatory needs are key parts of being able to deploy those types of systems there as well. So that's a really important thing to draw out there is that the work that we do around security in all of these features here isn't just about the enterprise solution. It's also pre-built into the device that you buy.
There's a question here I see around what requirements exist in terms of needing BES in order to deploy certain BlackBerry solutions like Blend or BBM Protected. It's a great question. Historically, BES was required for all of our services and solutions to work. But what you're finding is that while BES can serve as a central management point, in many instances it's not a prerequisite for some of these new solutions. So think of the new enterprise solutions that I talked about today as falling into two categories: some that are BES dependent and others that are independent of BES. So for certain solutions like VPN authentication and Blend for the enterprise, BES is required in order to manage those services. But if you look at some of the other things that we talked about today, like BBM Protected or BBM Meetings or Enterprise Identity for that matter, these are solutions that can operate in your organization independent of BES. So you don't need a BES in order to use them. And what that means is that it allows even more customers to embrace these BlackBerry solutions, perhaps even some that don't even have BlackBerry deployed in their organization today. There's a couple more questions here I just want to tackle before we wrap up. There was one here that I saw, and this one I think is maybe for you, Michael. Mm-hmm. Question here from Daniel is, why is security on BES better than that on AirWatch, Mobile Iron Good? Why would I switch back?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because it really encompasses a lot of the things we've been talking about here today. Is that you really think about security as being more than just a particular feature or a particular element. It's very much about providing that mature enterprise-ready solution to allow an organization to tackle whatever their business puts in front of them throughout the day then. So from a BlackBerry perspective, our goal has always been to ensure that we build controls into not just the devices themselves, but also into the management console and then all points in between. So every device which is being managed by a BES 12 instance, for example, takes advantage of the security controls that the use of our infrastructure offers to them. When you're using a BlackBerry device, you're actually taking advantage of those. We just passed our 16th anniversary of the BlackBerry 950 launching. All of those things that we've learned over those times there, such as how do we provide strong separation between work and personal data on your device, but with a pleasing unified user experience, such as BlackBerry Balance. That comes from all those experiences with those devices there, and that's unique to BlackBerry. But then we can take those lessons that we've learned from working with those customers, these are the largest organizations around the world, and make sure that when we're offering, not just management, but also data containment and app wrapping on platforms like iOS and Android as well, is we bring all of those things that we learned into not just the software running on those mobile devices, but then also within the console itself. So you have that single unified console for you to manage all of those. I don't think it gets emphasized enough that the complexity of mobility is just from the sheer volume of it and the sheer variety of how people actually use it then across an organization. Like if you think about when mobile devices started, they had to be the Swiss Army knife, because when people brought that shiny gadget into the organization, it was a cool toy, but it wasn't that you're going to change all your back-end systems to work with the shiny toy. You had to change the shiny toy to work with all of your existing back-end systems, because Big Iron is there, and that's where all your data is stored then. So mobility has grown up having to be flexible in those environments as well. And finally, another lesson that BlackBerry brings across all the solutions is that when mobility started, it was very much in resource-intensive environments. You didn't have gigantic pipes to get data down to your devices. You didn't have gigantic batteries. You didn't have huge screens. You had to think about efficiency in addition to security and performance as being fundamental to everything you do. And so that allows us, even today, just because the device has a bigger battery doesn't mean that you still don't have to think about efficiency there. Just because the device has a 4G radio doesn't mean that if you're sitting in New York, you're not sharing a tower with thousands and thousands of other people and your share of that pipe is tiny. BlackBerry ensures that everything that we build is thinking about efficiency in addition to security. And so that provides a great experience for you across the entire spectrum.
Perfect. That's great. Thanks, Mike. Just a couple more really quick questions to tackle here before we wrap up. And we appreciate everyone sticking around and being so active in the discussion here this morning. Question here around what's the licensing model for BES 12. And I do want to take a minute just to touch on that really quickly, because we've adopted a new licensing model for BES 12. We've essentially got two subscription prices, silver and gold. So we're moving away from a perpetual-based license to an annual subscription at two levels, silver and gold. The silver license enables things like mobile app management, mobile compliance management, mobile device management, mobile email management, and that license starts at $25 per device per year. And that includes advantage level support from a award-winning BlackBerry Care organization. At the gold level, this is where you get into things like secure connections, secure containers, secure browsers, secure document editing, secure productivity apps, and more and more and more. And that starts at $80 per device per year. And I'm quoting Canadian prices here on the call this morning, just to clarify. And that also includes advantage level support. Now, if you want our premium level support, the prices go up from there. And I should mention that both the silver and gold licenses do include cross-platform as well, so iOS, Android, and so on. So that's kind of a quick rundown on the licensing model. And another question that I got here, and I think we'll close on this one, is when is BES 12 going to be available? Well, simple answer is it's available today. You can get it right now. We'd encourage everybody to start a trial, start a pilot. You can do that from BlackBerry.com. Your best place to go is to hit BlackBerry.com/mobilityready to learn more about the enterprise portfolio and how you can get started. With that, we'll wrap up here this morning. We'd like to thank you all for joining us today and for participating in this great discussion. We'll stick around for a little while here on the bridge and try to answer some of the questions we weren't able to hit in the chat. But on behalf of Michael Brown and myself, thank you for your business, and we'll talk to you next time.